Here we go again. Mark and Mike telling you what they think, even when they're not really thinking. Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
Ramsey,
Marshall, how are you, sir?
man, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Well, I'm enjoying sitting in. I believe you told me this is a Spanish park as
Yes,
our
yeah,
background.
lovely Spanish park. I was working on a bathroom remodel. I needed some art. I was looking through my photos. Thought, this is a great picture. So, coming
And
to
for
a
our
bath,
many fans who may not know, all of our backdrops have been photos taken by you. So
except
pretty.
one trivia. Yeah, the only one was the Parthenon from last week.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's except everything else. Yeah, was photos taken by me or my daughter.
Well,
So
next time I'm in Nashville, I'll get a pano of the Nashville Parthenon reconstruction, which is amazing.
oh yeah, yeah. Now that you say that, I do have one of those, so I'll have to dig it
See?
up. Yeah, yeah. We spent a day there, so it's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
you've been noodling about something.
Yes, yes. Together, everyone achieves more.
Ooh, that's deep.
Team, right, right. None of us are as smart as all of us. Right. So these cliches, right, all about teamwork. Um, they just they come down to us, and I think it's something that everybody logically gets that
Hmm.
people working together is better than people working by themselves. But what I've noticed is the practical application, right, right. How do people interact as team members, and then more importantly, how do people lead teams, and then the organizational structure, right? Do you build something that makes a team even possible, or is even anti-team? And
Uh,
so yeah, just that it's been bugging me. I ran into some teams this week that were struggling,
mhm.
and it seems so easy, but it's so difficult.
Yeah.
um, and I know you got some thoughts on teams as well from different examples that we've been studying.
Yeah, well, the big one that I always come back to is IDEO, the very influential design firm. They designed the first Apple mouse, the first commercially available notebook computer. I read that they even designed the whale in Free Willy, the big robotic whale.
Nice.
Um, and of course they eventually designed all sorts of things, buildings and hospital systems, and it wasn't just products, but they used that same genius to do it, and the genius is in their teams. They put together these teams of just random really smart people, really dedicated people. It's a psychologist and an architect and a doctor, and for some reason they're able to come up with something that nobody else was able to come up with. And the quote from them, if I remember this correctly, is enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of lone geniuses. So, the lone genius, he's amazing and he can have all these plans, but boy, the real secret is when the team gets together and starts playing around. And I think another one of theirs is something to the effect of fail sooner to fail quickly to succeed sooner, something like that. So the idea of the team is where all that magic happens. It can't be the lone genius.
No, no. I actually had an example. I do a little teamwork example, and so I put the people individually. They got a sheet, and there's 16 problems on the sheet, and they have to solve the sheet. And then I take all the individual scores and we calculate them, and the average is always like 5, and then I put them into teams, and of course the team score is always higher and everything, except one time I had this guy and I knew he was exceptionally brilliant. And so when I was asking for the individual scores, he said, he'd gotten 13 out of 16.
Huh.
It's never happened before. And so this is a public debrief, right? So everybody's telling their individual scores. I put him into a team. He's on one of the teams. When the team gets done, they've got 7. Like, and because this guy was an introvert, he was a quiet problem solving guy, he sat in the team.
Yeah.
He had just reported out he'd solved 13 of these.
Huh.
The team ignored him
Yeah.
and worked really hard and got up from 3 and 4, individually. They got up to 7 as a team, and never asked him, what can you contribute? What did you figure
Yeah.
out? Show us your 13, right? Which he would have, he would have gladly done. And so that was the only time where the team had done worse than any individual on the team. The lone genius was sitting on the team, wanting to share. The team wouldn't even ask him.
They couldn't figure out how to be in team work with him.
Right. This guy seems to have a lot of answers. Let's pick his brain. None of that was going on.
Yeah.
So I've done an exercise for 20 years, and that was such a perfect example, and the only example where the lone genius was so far ahead that the team wouldn't even engage with it. And then the team struggled.
Well, I've seen that happen with sort of the opposite of that, where, the guy that comes up with a genius idea is somebody nobody expects. They don't have any public debrief. I had a team that they basically, it was a management team, and they had this one guy who was not in the part of the business where they were coming up with a problem solving, trying to fix a situation, a problem they had. And, he was quiet for the whole meeting. And then all of a sudden he goes, it's sort of like that hotel. And he brought up this random example from another industry. And it was so off the wall, everybody just kind of went, what? And then when it finally, the penny finally dropped, and everybody was like, oh, that's it. And sure enough, he took their customer service scores up. I think it was like 10 points overnight once they instituted this one little tweak that he had from another industry. And he wasn't even supposed to be in that part of the business. He just had a really good idea. Guess we got to work together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was reading Sean Akers' book on big potential, and the book is titled Big Potential. So the concept is little potential is all the individual efforts from the people in your organization. Big potential are all those individuals working together in a spirit of collaboration and things like that. And so he's got, what I like about Sean Akers' work is he's got research to back up his findings. It's not just, here's my anecdotal life experience. It's here's the research, and here's very specific examples where we went in and studied it, and it was true. And as you're looking at this, and you look at the some of the organizations we deal with, where it's very sales oriented and it's hyper competitive, and there is no teamwork. And it's interesting because the organizations are set up to foster individual effort, and yet one of the things that you and I hear all the time is my guys aren't communicating, they're not working as a team.
Right.
And I know that we could provide a better customer experience, we could sell more stuff, we could be more innovative if we work together.
Right.
And you're sitting there looking at it going, that this dichotomy of, well, you've built a system that only rewards individual behavior. And
sometimes individual behavior at the expense of another department, right? I mean, I make profit as long as you don't.
If I can take from that guy or that department, I'll do better and they'll do worse. But I did better, and look, I reached the next bonus level.
Yeah.
So retroactively, I get another $500 per sale, or whatever it is. So we have a saying in our world that came from the wonderful Greg Kansky, right? The structure,
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, structure defines behavior.
Yeah.
And so we build a structure, and then we put people in it, and they do exactly what we've designed it to do, and then we wonder why they're doing that.
Yeah.
Or not doing something else. So we're starting to see some enlightenment where people are building structures that reward individual behavior, but also there's a team component.
Yeah.
If the team collectively gets to this certain level, then everybody shares an additional reward, and sometimes it's monetary, sometimes it's just from a pride standpoint. We'll have a dinner, we're about to eat or something like that. But that's so rare, and so I think that's one of those things where you know, you have to take a look at what did I build? What do I talk about as a leader? And is it going to get me the teamwork that I'm looking for?
Yep. And if you're not the leader, you still have a role here, because I think that you're in charge of your own mindset and the choices you make. So an example of that might be Jimmy Collins, who was I think he retired as president and COO of Chick-fil-A. And if I have my timeline right, he was really there when they went from being mall restaurants to being, standalone.
Right.
So he was there for a big explosion in their business. And he always called himself the chief follower of the founder, Truett Cathy.
Mm-hmm.
That was his role, he thought, as head of the company. I'm the chief follower. And that was really what he's got a book, I think it's called In the Shadow of Greatness. And you can just tell by that title sort of his mindset, right? But he called it creative followership. I'm going to do whatever my boss can't or doesn't want to do. I'm going to be humble enough to do that.
Right.
And you look at the other example that comes to mind is U2, the rock band. They may not be your cup of tea, but they've lasted decades longer than other bands. So many successful world tours, so many hits. They've had money pouring in to the U2 organization, and have made a difference in the world with all sorts of charitable acts. But one of the things I remember reading about them early on is that Bono said out loud in an interview, "I'm the heart, the Edge is the head, and Adam and Larry are the feet and hands."
Right.
Now, first off, there's a little parallel there with the Bible in Corinthians that talks about the body of Christ, and Christ is the head, and we're all supposed to be the body, and not everybody can be an eye, because then we'd have just one big eye. We've got to have a whole body. Some people's got to be the hands, some people's got to be the the feet. But just think about for a moment I guess I'm gonna call it humility that it takes for Larry Mullen Jr. and Adam Clayton to say, yeah, I am just the hands and feet. And of course, never just anything, because you're the one doing it that somebody else isn't. So
Right.
There's a reason for you to have that role. But to embrace that, regardless of the structure that your particular boss might have set up, you can enter something that looks like a lot like teamwork if you have that mindset of, I have a role here and I can humbly do it and serve the other people around me. And that's magic when that happens.
Oh, yeah. We've seen those examples in more. I think they were more vividly demonstrated in sports, right? We hear about it in business, but you don't see it. But yeah, in sports, you see an average group of guys work together to beat, a superior group of superstars.
Yeah.
Sean Aker talks about that. He says, he says he doesn't want a team of superstars. He wants a constellation. And so I need all these stars working together, right? They don't have to be superstars. I just need good people working together, and I will outshine a superstar.
Love that.
And so he also talks about exactly what you're talking about, which is you can lead from any chair. So doesn't matter what your title is, you can lead a portion of whatever it is from any chair. You can do your part exceptionally well that contributes to the team. And yeah, some great examples of that, from orchestras and business and things like that. So it's all here. I think the key to this whole thing is having the courage to look introspectively at your own leadership. Right? What do you talk about? And as we know, whatever the leader talks about is what gets focused on. So when you celebrate a moment, do you celebrate the MVP, or do you celebrate the team's accomplishment and highlight some of the performances that contributed to that?
Yeah.
I think it's Saban, the guy, the football coach from Alabama. He talks about he doesn't present an MVP ball at the end of the game. Nobody gets a individual award. They don't name the outstanding player of the game because that guy couldn't have done it unless everybody else was helping.
Amen.
Aker talks about a superstar, right? So we want to get the ball in the hands of the superstar the last 2 minutes of the game. That only works is if the superstar didn't have to carry the team for the first 98% of the game. He has to have
Yeah.
enough energy and reserves left to, take that final shot and take it well and hit it. And we want him to take that shot, but it's not possible for the team to be in a position to win unless the team supported him throughout the game.
That's solid.
Yeah, it's amazing. So looking at yourself, what are you talking about as a leader? The last thing you need to look at is the structure, reward systems, pay plans, whatever it is. Take a look at those and go, is there anything in here that's anti-team?
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything in here that fosters teamwork, and do we talk about it enough?
Yeah.
There's some great examples where they've got something in place, but nobody talks about it. Nobody even knows how it's calculated.
Mm.
And so therefore it has no positive impact towards improving team performance. So what are you talking about? What did you build? And then is it pro team or anti-team? And if you want people to work together and you truly believe that will benefit your organization, those are the hard things that you have to look at.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, as we're wrapping up here, you've sort of given three, areas to consider. I think another thing to do here is just keep whetting your appetite for how good it can be with a really good team. And we can all do this. We can sit back and think about the groups we were a part of that achieved something really awesome. I mean, it could be, it could have been your little league team, but there's probably a team example from church, from school, from home with your spouse, from work, that really achieved something special. And think about how that worked and how it felt, and let that guide some of these three areas to look at that you brought up.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Most people have an example of a great team that they've been on.
Yeah.
And for those who don't, you feel so bad for them, right?
Yeah.
They're like, no, I've never been on anything that performed at that kind of high collaborative level, and you're like, man, you've missed out, right? Hopefully,
Yeah.
at some point in your life, you're part
It's so cool.
of a work or volunteer group or a church group or something
Right.
that does this, because you have to experience it, and
Yeah.
it's magical and it's fleeting, right? These great teams are not sustained indefinitely, but when they're created and they're performed, the level of achievement is just it's beyond what science says it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you'll always be a band of brothers to some degree. There's always that thing you can go back and smile about when you get together. It's fun to be a part of a good team. So
It truly is.
all right.
Good stuff. Let's see what
Love
our
it.
announcer has to say.
I'm excited.
And that's a wrap. The musings of Mark and Mike. No rights reserved, etc. Feel free to share and discuss what you heard today. Even claim the ideas as your own. Who'd want to do that? See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius. Thanks.
That's good enough.